This segment brought to you by Kansas Corn. Learn more at kscorn.com.
Clint Armstrong, co-founder and brewmaster at 1524 Brew House in Clay Center, is our guest today. We talked in the brew room, and Clint explained how 1524 became a reality.
I want to talk about where the vision started, how you decided on this area, all that went into this, because I mean it's a massive project.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of fun too because we have, there's three different stories really. There's, Scott Patterson's story, and then Ken Hughes' story, and then kind of my story. And so, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and I definitely wanted to open up a brewery. And Sarah and I had kind of just, we said, let's do it. Let's find a way to make it happen. And so we just started looking at buildings and just looking at, a few of the little places for sale. And then, but for me, I always wanted to be downtown. So, just trying to kind of figure out what we could do downtown. And, if you remember, they had the big barbecue sign out front here, and there was just a sign, and it just said, for rent with a number. And I don't even think there was a name. And so I had never really met Scott, or to my knowledge, I mean, we had been into the pharmacy or whatever, but it's not like I knew him by name by any means. And everybody I talked to around town, they knew that I brewed beer. They knew that I wanted to do something in town, and they just, they kept telling me, and it was like repeating, like, why don't you call Scott, or why don't you call this number, or blah, 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 call that Brady's barbecue restaurant or whatever. And I kept hearing Scott's name and just this building. And of course I would drive by it more times, just to drive by and just kind of like daydream, if you will. And so finally, after God gives you so many clues and so many like, hey, push forwards, and you got to, take the jump and do it. And I called Scott up, and I just asked him, how much the rent was and blah, 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 and just trying to let him know what I was planning on doing. Then he called back, and he's like, well, what are you looking to do? And I was like, well, and I told him my background of being a brewer, and then I wanted to open up a little tap room. And that's all I was getting a loan to basically just open up a little tap room, maybe have cold cuts, and then see if we could develop into a restaurant one day. And that was kind of the thought process, because I had no workforce. I mean, it was going to be me, and hopefully, a sign on the window would bring in a couple of people from time to time, so I would have some help, So he's like, well, what about a partner? And I was like, well, what are you talking about? And so we all just started getting together and kind of getting to know each other. And then I met Ken, who'd been doing some home brewing. And then, Scott just was eager to do it and was down to make it happen. And so we just said, okay, let's go. And so then we had to work out a name, and that was just where it started. And so we came up with a name and kind of a time frame on when everybody was going to kind of stop their day jobs, or Ken and I anyway, and just go full-time here and start making it happen, and it just started going. And that's... Now,
let's give everybody, what was the time frame from actually making that phone call to everybody saying, okay, we're
It was probably about 3 months, I would say, that, and there was, the first phone call and then several meetings, and then the meeting where we all just said, let's do it, we're in. Probably took about 3 months.
And so then what was the first steps to, after the paperwork was done and you were headed here?
The first step, we wanted to make sure that we had a kitchen manager, and we had one, and that fuzzled out really quick. And so we were like, okay, so let's just start building and figuring out what we want to do. And so the first step was really to come into the building and see, what do we have, what can we do, what can we pull off, and where can we do it, and just kind of figure out the logistics of where everything's going to go and what we might need.
Sure Crop Fertilizers was started by my father, Don Sherman, and my mother, Shirley Sherman. Family business that started in the 80s. We predominantly focus on plant nutrients and what we can do to give growers better responses with the fertilizer dollars that they do, and what we can do to make those things work better for the grower. We're based out of Seneca, Kansas. We work with growers in their soil analysis to figure out what they need, and then we can put those in a blend that gives them the best results, and so that we can deliver that direct to their farm so that they have those nutrients where they need them, when they need them, and so that they can apply them in a manner that's very efficient to them and works well in their planting systems and what they're doing. Sure Crop Fertilizers has been around for a long time. We always say we're big enough to take care of everything you need, but we're small enough to do it quickly. You can get a hold of us at 1-800-635-4743. Our website is surecropfertilizers.com, and you can always email me at Corey@surecropfertilizers.com, and with any questions you have, we're glad to answer it and work with you.